Welcome to Real Talk with Tina and Ann. I am Ann, and today's episode is deeply personal to me. Today we have RJ Formanek, and we are talking about a condition that deeply affects millions of people around the world. Yet so many people still do not fully understand it. If you want to understand the life of a person who has had to live and overcome a neurodivergence that affects up to 1 in 20 United States school age children, according to the CDC, and according to the Center for Addiction and Mental Health in 2024, 119,000 children are born every year who have FASD, otherwise known as fetal alcohol spectrum disorder, and the global prevalence of FASD is approximately 7.7 per 1,000 in the general population, with rates potentially as high as 30% in high-risk populations. These numbers highlight the impact alcohol consumption has during pregnancy on fetal development. Individuals affected by this have a lifetime of difficulties, and I think many will be shocked to hear these numbers. But first, I just want to say to you, RJ, brother from another mother, the founder of Flying with Broken Wings, an online support and awareness community, and co-creator of Red Shoes Rock, a global movement that brings visibility and understanding to those who live with FASD. RJ, I am so glad to have you on today. I am just thrilled.
It's always a pleasure to speak with you, Anne. We go back a few years now, and we've been on this journey separately together, but always keeping in touch. And I think that's fantastic. I love what you're doing. You're really changing the world for a lot of people. Great job.
Well, you are as well. I mean, I am so proud of you. I'm so proud of us, actually. I mean, look at where we started. And I was trying to figure out how long it's been. I mean, it's been almost probably a couple decades. I don't even know. How long has it been?
At least 15 years.
At least.
I'm I'm
That's what I was
I'm
thinking.
I'm terrible with time. So let's say 15 and maybe a little bit more.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. It goes back to when you and me were both, we knew that we had been diagnosed with FASD, and Jeff Noble brought us together, and we started doing shows kind of like this, but it was it was the early stages of streaming services, and we had a call-in show, and the two of us, we started this little Facebook group outside of your very successful Flying with Broken Wings, and it was super fun. I mean, I think that it was the beginning for both of us. It sparked our voice in this way.
Oh, definitely, definitely. We experimented, we tried different things, and we had like what, 2 seasons of our podcast. It was an audio only podcast, obviously, and
Right,
we
right.
had no boundaries. I remember there were a couple of times we both came off it, and we were both totally shell shocked and just totally wiped out. But we were reaching people who'd never
Yeah,
heard
yeah.
what we were talking about and people who were living with it that didn't know. It's amazing the number of people who will listen to an advocate and start putting things together and then start seeking their own diagnosis. Those numbers are amazing.
Yeah, they really are. We did talk about the numbers in the United States, but you're in Canada. So what are the numbers in Canada?
Well, the official numbers are at about 4%
Okay. Yeah,
right
I knew it
now.
was higher. Yeah. But
Um,
part of the reason why it's higher too is because you guys are just so far ahead of us.
our diagnostics are catching a lot more. So our numbers and our prevalence are starting to rise. I personally think it'll go a lot higher than that.
Mm-hmm.
And there are many people our age who have FASD who don't know it because
100%.
people. Well, I was 47 when I was diagnosed, and I was the first person in this part of Canada to be successfully diagnosed as an adult. I'm 64 now. That's not that long ago. So it's only been in that amount of time that we're starting to catch the ones who aren't kids now. Because as you were saying, this is lifelong. A lot of people think it's like a life sentence. I think it's an adventure. So I
Yeah.
have I have an attitude about it. Even though I was diagnosed late, I had to fight for my own autonomy in life. yeah, I was the weird one. I was the one who was always doing crazy kind of stuff all the time, and the one who went too far and said too much and laughed
Mm,
at things that weren't funny, just totally inappropriate. But I was real, and despite the fact that everyone kept telling me I was wrong, I couldn't change who I was, so I had to accept that. And I grew up knowing that, yeah, I'm a weirdo. If you don't like it, too bad. I like
yeah,
me.
100%. And I love you. And you are perfect
I
just
love
the way
you.
you are. And you always have been. As long as I've known you, you're a really special guy. And I have three kids who have FASD, and they are all amazing kids. So, yeah, the one thing about it is that, sure, we want to get out there and we want to do the fight, tell people we just came out of September, and it was the ninth month, the ninth day, it represents not drinking for 9 months. And we want to get those messages out there 100%. But we're here, you know, we're already here. And that's
Mm.
also the other message that we want to get out there is that, there's a lot of us that are here that are already born with FASD. And so, we're some of us are grown up, some of us are still young kids, and we want to be able to get that message out and who we are. And first of all, I wanted to ask you, RJ, who is RJ? I mean, what was your life like growing up?
Um, RJ. Oh, he's just some guy. um, I followed the classic no hope trajectory. Okay, first off, I'm First Nations. I'm Native, what
Mm-hmm.
you would refer to as Indian in the United States. When I was born, my mother gave me up at birth. She was unwed. I wasn't expected. It was 1961. Life
Okay.
was a lot more judgmental in those days, and she thought, okay, well, I'll just forget about this and learn another thing. Um, Her mother, my grandmother, did not like that idea at all, and she stepped in and took me. There's no adoption going on here. We're taking this kid home. So
Okay.
I ended up being raised by my grandmother, and that
Mm-hmm.
went fine. But they kept trying to reunite me with my mother. She would get stable for a while. She had um, a problem with alcohol consumption, and that was a weakness of hers. And she would go through relationships. She would seem stable for a while. I would get sent to live with her. Everything would crash, and there'd be
Mm,
fights and kinds of stuff like that. And then I would go back to my grandmother for a little while. But I'm coming back to my grandmother every time with all these experiences, very, very negative experiences.
yeah.
Um, so eventually, when I was 12 years old, I sort of was just too much for my at that point, my grandmother was my age, 65 roughly, and my grandfather was in his mid to late 70s.
Okay.
They couldn't handle a teenager at that point who was super rambunctious, who had ADHD, was bouncing off the walls 100 miles an hour all the time,
Yeah. Yeah.
and frustrated and angry. One of the things that really frustrated me as a kid was I was always getting in trouble for
Mm,
being non-compliant, let's say. I would ask why. Someone would say, go do something. And I would innocently, just wanting to know why the reasoning was, because I was curious. I'd ask
mm-hmm.
why. And
Mm-hmm.
that would end up with incentive to be compliant, let's say, what it was in those days. So, yeah, by the time I was 14, I was in trouble with the law. I ended up being removed from my grandmother's by the courts and went into the foster care system. Well, I didn't foster very well, and I went through 13 foster placements in 12 months. At which
Mm.
point they gave up on me, went back to the court, had me emancipated as an adult, and then I was placed into an adult group home. If I screwed up there, I was going to jail.
How old were you then
I was
at this
15.
time? 15. Okay.
and I had been emancipated as an adult. I thought it was really cool. I didn't realize that, then I could be charged for anything as an adult.
Mm. Yeah, that's
So,
pretty scary. What kind of behaviors are you talking about that caused you to go through the system like that?
in particular, I broke into a house and vandalized it. I
Okay.
stole I stole a truck and drove it around for a while, just joyriding, and damaged it a little bit because kids that can't go. I didn't drive that well, so I kind of bumped it a few times. But I brought it back to where I got it from, and I ended up getting caught because I had left a shoe print in paint. Now,
Mm,
the one thing nobody knows is I had met a girl, but she lived long distance away from me, and I needed to contact her. I couldn't use my phone because it was secret, and these people were on vacation. So I went in to make a long distance phone call, and then to cover my tracks, I made a mess.
mm.
So,
So
but
in your brain,
I could never tell anyone that part, and I ended up
yeah.
with 5 years probation out of the whole thing. And then I was thrown into the mental health system because they thought I was nuts because they couldn't understand why I'd done this. And I was too embarrassed by the fact that it was more about raging teenage hormones to tell them that it was
Mm,
about making a phone call, not about wrecking somebody's house out of anger.
mm-hmm.
So that was subterfuge, and it got me in way more trouble. I learned very, very quickly. I deal better with the truth. It's better not to try and be sneaky for me. So, yeah. And I ended up in a group home with a
Mm,
woman who, years before there was even a term for fetal alcohol spectrum disorder, seemed to understand at least neurodivergence. When I
okay.
first moved in, the first 6 weeks, I sat in my bed alone. We had a ward, so there was like 5 guys there, but I had my own bed. It was my own space. Nobody else would touch it theoretically, and it was mine. And that's
Mm-hmm.
the only place I wanted to be. She would let me take my meals up there. Like I had to come down and get it, obviously. I was upstairs of her house, and she let me acclimatize. Up until that point, it had been 12 months of, hi, this is your new family. Get out of here. Hi, this is your new family. We don't want you. And so I was
Mm,
so defensive. So it took me about
mm-hmm.
6 weeks until I finally came down to eat with the family. And that
Wow.
was the way she approached me the whole time. She allowed me to be me. She gave me autonomy. And that in itself was such a learning experience. What ended up happening was at the age of 18, I aged out. So my
Mm,
childhood support payments and everything stopped. She let me stay there, with odd jobs and trying to pay the rent with a little bit here and there. But she let me stay there until I was 23.
wow.
And for me, that made all the difference. Between 18 and 23, my brain started figuring out that, yeah, okay, you have to figure out what you're going to do with your life. And
Yeah.
then I knew what I had to figure out was, what can I do? I know my personality. I know that I'm here, there, I'm everywhere. I'm 90 miles an hour, and I can't do a sit down job. I cannot. So I looked for where my talents were, and those are in the more artistic realm. And I ended up going into television, and the rest is all history.
Mm-hmm.
You did,
Mm-hmm.
as-
Isn't that
but yeah,
interesting that we both went into media? I think that's really interesting as two FASD people.
um, people with FASD often see things in a way. I'm working on a project right now where I'm going to explore that people with FASD lead with their hearts.
Mm,
We do everything with that emotion built in. It's not separate. If
yeah.
we're excited and on your team, we're pushing, we're ready to go. We're like racehorses. One
100%.
and if we're mad, we're really mad. We feel it in our hearts. It's not just in our heads. We feel it. So people with FASD are we integrate that emotion into our daily life. And I
Mm-hmm.
think this is what a lot of people see in us that they find attractive. is that we can speak with emotion, that we can feel
Mm-hmm.
in that moment.
Mm-hmm.
And we often live in the moment. And that can
Mm-hmm.
be either good
Mm-hmm.
or bad depending on the moment.
Yeah.
But yeah, FASD is fascinating to me. And learning how my brain works and finally understanding that, just, it
Yes.
was something I had to share.
That's really interesting that realizing what your brain was like with FASD. I don't know. I mean, it took me a lot of years to get to that point for me to really understand. I mean, I was a screw up. If you would have looked in the dictionary under screw up, there I was. I mean, I couldn't figure it out. And everybody else around me in the classroom, they were all just sitting there taking notes. They were doing their stuff. I was watching them to figure out what I was supposed to do. I always felt like I was 10 steps behind everybody. What I was legitimately trying to keep up. I wasn't purposely trying to do something wrong. And I even had a teacher say to me, Anne, why are you the only one in the classroom that's not doing what they're supposed to be doing? And my only answer was, I don't know. And I really didn't know. And because my heart wanted to do what was right. And I look at my son, who it's the same thing. I mean, he's in trouble all the time, unfortunately, and we're doing everything that we can to help him. And he is upset that he can't make the right choices. And I think figuring out the FASD brain is huge for us to understand why we do the things that we do, even when we're not trying to. I mean, that's huge.
And what a lot of people don't understand is for someone like you or me, in those quiet moments, just as we're drifting off to sleep, we feel shame
Yeah.
because of the way we are. And that's unfortunate. However,
Yeah.
because we don't want to be that way. Um, One of the most pivotal moments for me was when I got my diagnosis. The
Hmm.
diagnostician sat me down and she said, "Okay, I want you to understand one thing. It's not your fault.
See. Oh, see, those are
Nobody,
beautiful words.
nobody ever said that to me before. It broke me. It still does because that
Mm,
freed me to forgive myself because I was
mm,
owning all the things that I did. And I know you probably felt that too.
I
That
did.
that regardless, good, bad, or whatever, I did it. I did it.
Mm,
And I felt responsible, whether it was circumstances or whatever. And finally, I understood that my brain was conspiring against me,
mm,
putting up obstacles that I didn't know were there, and that, it wasn't my fault I was this way. So
hmm.
that was such a freeing moment for me. Oh yeah, yeah. See, I still get emotional about it.
Because this is so deep. And we're legitimately really good people. My son is probably one of the most beautiful souls. And I am going to cry because he just went through all this testing at a hospital in our area. And we really, it's interesting that you guys are so far ahead of us. But one of our biggest hospitals in the United States just started for kids, an FASD clinic just started. And my kids were one of the top, they were three of the top ones that they wanted to look at. So my one son went in and he had almost about 8 hours of testing. And it was, from face measurement and like all this other stuff that they did. And of course, he came out completely having FASD. And I already knew that he was going to. And it's a spectrum. Everybody falls within the spectrum somewhere. And he unfortunately was really hit hard by it. And I just, it makes me weep too. It makes me cry because he, like I said, has such a beautiful soul, and he in no way, he wants to please, but he comes home from school with really low behavior grades. He's in a behavioral school because he's not able to really academically even keep up. So, we just try to work with the academics, or I mean, with the behaviors. And he just feels like he's falling short every single day. He just is falling short in his eyes every single day. And it's just so sad.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think you could help the school by having them address um, what you're seeing as symptoms,
Yeah.
not behaviors. They're symptoms of what's going on in his brain. It's a clue. It's a place to start. So,
Did you go through school? Did you go through the regular traditional route, like, first through 12th grade, and you just went in regular classrooms?
yeah, yeah.
Okay. Did,
I was always the screw up, except in the English and history, and yeah, pretty well English and history were my two really, really. I had incredible strengths. Everywhere else, I was a total screw up, class clown, disruptive, because if I didn't understand what was going on, I started to make some noise, kind of thing.
See, and
Uh,
that's what I say about my son and also about me in school is if you put somebody, even the smartest, whatever it is, and you put them in a rocket science classroom, they're going to be acting up, because you're speaking a different language. You're not reaching them where they are. If you're teaching way above where somebody is, then you're not going to be able to reach them. And of course, you're going to see behaviors.
exactly, exactly. But at that time, there weren't even like special ed classes. There's no such thing as an
No,
IE.
no,
It was
no.
just you get sent to the office. I spent most of my school years sitting in the hallway outside the office waiting for the principal. Back in those days, they still had the strap. I experienced that more than once too,
Oh, I was
because
paddled.
the assumption used to be you curb behaviors by physical force. The kid will remember not to do that again. Well, it doesn't work when the
Right.
kid doesn't know why they're getting in trouble in the first place.
And that's one of the things that the FASD people at the hospital explained to me is that with the testing that they found out with him is that the cause and effect isn't there. The ability to see, I did this and this happened, and for him to remember that even into the next day is just too hard.
Oh,
So that's
oh, yes, completely. Um, like if you want to address a symptom, what they call a behavior, you need to do it in that moment. Because if you do
right.
it later, that's no longer in our memory. Like I have short term and working memory issues, which means an
Eh,
hour, 2 hours later, I don't remember. I just was the MC at an international conference for 2.5 days. I was on stage running around and everything. When I came home, I couldn't tell anyone what happened because I didn't remember. It's coming back 2 weeks later now. Because
Yeah,
my long-term memory is sound. But
right.
knowing that I have the deficits in working and short term, they're both different but related. I'm able to, forgive myself for not remembering today what I will remember in 2 weeks.
Yeah, and I'm the same way. I mean, I have to if somebody asks me direct questions and says, "Oh, did this happen?" I could say yes or no, and then I can start pulling it out of me. But for me to just sit there and you say, how did it go? Tell me all about it." Uh, yeah, yeah, I would appreciate the help in helping me get it out. And that's another thing is knowing how to speak the language of somebody who has fetal alcohol. You have to know the person, you have to know how to be able to have communication with them so you
Yes.
can help them be their best self.
In Canada, we've made great strides with what we call the person first strategy.
Okay.
So like CanFASD, which is the umbrella organization for education in Canada, has largely embraced that because that's giving the people with experience voices. And
Mm-hmm.
you can be the best researcher, but I'm the owner operator. you can see how I operate this brain, but you don't do it. I do. So only
Mm-hmm.
I can tell you what's actually going on. And in my head, we can't visually see brain changes except with a few very extreme tests, like a functional MRI, which is like
Mm.
hours long and can be really hard for someone with, say, ADHD. So they have started to realize that we're telling the truth about what's going on in our heads, and they're
Mm-hmm.
being able to utilize that. So our strategies now are all first thing called person first. It's
Mm-hmm.
about the person, not the FASD. It's the person who's living with it that's important, and we address the person first.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think that we try to do that in the United States. I mean, even the vocabulary that we use is different than it used to be, even with autism, instead of saying autistic, there are people with autism, or however you want to say it, if you want to put the person first. And I think that that's really important. When I used to work at that school that you know of, for kids with autism, it was the same thing where we put the child first. And if you do put the child first, then you're going to be able to maybe meet them where they are better, because this is not just a blanket diagnosis where every single person you're going to treat them exactly the same just because they have something. So we have to remember that they are people first, and they have feelings and they care. And just because they're doing something or they have something doesn't mean that they aren't doing their best. I mean, they might actually be doing their best, even though their best is a lot different than what you think it should be.
Exactly, exactly. So having that understanding permeating into the medical, the mental health areas, as well as FASD, general social workers. I have a keynote coming up at the end of November with the Indigenous Chiefs of Ontario. So they oversee the
Mm,
entire Native education system. And I'm going there to speak about the neurodivergence and the, in my particular case, the convergence of FASD, ADHD, and other symptoms that, and how educators can best support students so they can
oh,
understand how to help them, help themselves.
do you have any
So
key points here? I
I'm still working on that one.
want to ask you a question. Were you ever angry at your mom?
Yeah, many times, but not in regards to me, who I am, how I, no, I was angry with her for her coldness,
Okay.
but I never blamed her for the FASD because I always saw her
Mm,
as struggling with the alcohol. So
okay.
I
So
saw
you,
the alcohol as the culprit.
okay.
Um, Again, coming from a native family, I have
Mm,
seen many examples of how certain substances cross cultural barriers in a very bad way.
okay.
And physically, it's not the best thing for some people to drink. And I can have a drink, but I don't choose to drink. So if I
Hmm.
go out socially and somebody says, "You want a glass of wine?" Everybody else having a glass of wine. I'll have a glass of wine. That's not a problem. But you're never
Hmm.
going to catch me going out to have a drink, if you know
Hmm.
what I mean. That
Hmm.
that's not my thing. So and that's personal choice, and I just don't like the way it feels. So
Hmm.
no, I
I don't
never
either.
blamed my mom. However, there are many people who have a journey to make with grief, loss, and acceptance when they do get the diagnosis. And are they angry? Yes. Do they have the right to be angry? Absolutely.
Yeah.
That is a piece that you need to come to on your own. So when somebody comes into my group and they go, "I hate my mom, I hate my mom," I will not disagree with their feelings.
Hmm.
I will try to
Yeah.
show them that maybe there's more that they need to take into account, things they don't know, situations, etc. And through time, I often see a softening, and they start to realize my mom's a person too, And people
Mm-hmm.
make mistakes. She
Yeah.
didn't do this on purpose.
Yeah.
So who's the victim and who's the culprit? Maybe it's the alcohol and not the moms.
Yeah. It's hard to come to that. It affects us for the rest of our life. And I mean, that's a lot to carry. And I don't know, did your mom had passed when you found out?
Yes.
So she never knew.
No.
Okay. I wonder how she would have felt. Can you tap into who you think she might have been if she would have known?
I think initially she would have pushed back. I know in her heart of hearts she knew that something happened at some point,
Okay.
but it
You
might
think,
take her a little while that she would accept the fact that
okay.
yeah, maybe you drank. I think she would.
When we were younger, you know, people didn't really think about it as much as they do now. I mean, there's a lot more information out there. I mean, if you're drinking now while pregnant, you probably know that you shouldn't be. But back when our parents were pregnant with us, they it wasn't as prevalent. And
No.
and they might not have done things intentionally as much as now it's known. Don't drink while pregnant. But I really do think that there is a lot of us out there, like you said. There's a lot more than people realize. There's people that don't have a great working memory, who had difficulties in schools, and they have a lot of disabilities, and they don't understand why they have the differences that they do, and they may never, because they don't look into it. But it could have
And,
been
and
because
sadly, huge chunks of the homeless population
mm,
will be neurodivergent people.
mm-hmm,
And I
yeah,
see that constantly. One of the most heartbreaking things to go to like a big conference is when you go outside of the hotel. I mean, you're in a five-star hotel, everything's grand, and people are opening doors for you and all that stuff.
mm,
You walk outside, and there's a guy sleeping
mm,
on a grate. Ah,
yeah, that's
and
hard.
I meet a lot of people outside of hotels, and I have some really, really good conversations because, I mean, at any point that I could be next.
Mm-hmm,
And that's a functional reality that an adult with FASD has to live with. Is you're always living on a knife edge. You make
mm-hmm,
that one mistake, and who knows what could happen.
mm-hmm,
It can be a lot of pressure.
mm-hmm,
However, the way I look at it is there's a certain amount of freedom that comes with neurodivergence. It's the classic. It's not thinking outside the box. There is no freaking box. The box does
mm-hmm,
not exist. All ideas are free form flowing. They can go from here to there, and it's a wonderful feeling. I
mm-hmm,
couldn't imagine having a brain that doesn't work that way. When I
mm-hmm,
found out that not everybody has a voice in their head, I was amazed. Because when I think about doing something, there's a voice. It's my voice saying, okay, well, you have to open the door this way and don't forget to duck your head. I am functionally telling myself the steps as I go through life.
mm-hmm.
I realize not everybody does that. They just automatically, oh, duck my head, remember? And it's not even, but we're like, the difference between an automatic transmission and manual, I have to think about
Oh,
everything.
I love that.
Every single step is like,
Mm,
shifting gears. I got to clutch. I got to put the gear in. I got to put the clutch out. And I got to remember to put the gas on. And at the same time, keep an eye out for everybody. Oh, wait, I have to put the brakes on there. I'm out of gear and I'm in neutral. And now I got to put it back in gear and I gear up, gear up. Oh, geez, I got to do it again. Every thought process is like that. We get
mm,
tired.
mm,
So, um, like in the education thing, one of the things that we stress, no homework. Those kids have just had six
yeah,
or 8 hours. And for
yeah,
someone with a neurodivergence, that's a whole lot
yeah.
of gear shifting. and then you're going to give them homework? No, no,
Yeah.
no. IEPs have to say no homework.
Yeah, you know my story and what I used to do in order to make it with all the homework. And I had to teach myself how to learn because I didn't know how to learn. And if I was going to make it in the school system with a C, I mean, I had to read into a tape recorder, listen to it back, then I would take notes, then I would, remember that little bit that I would write down enough to be able to take a test, and then it would be gone. I mean, that's what I would have to do. And I did it all the way to a master's degree, but I was determined, and not everybody is able to do that. And I don't, I was just really determined to do it.
Mhm.
But it took every ounce of energy in me to do it. So,
Yeah.
and I don't think that people even understand, like, to put something like this together. It's a lot more than the average podcaster, or a lot more than what you have to go through in order to get ready to go speak. Or, I can remember one of the first times that you were going to go speak and you were going to get on an airplane and all this stuff, everything, all the steps were laid out for you. And I don't know. I mean, is it getting any easier? Is it getting a little bit better?
Yeah, still the hardest part is the pre-planning and putting everything in place and making sure that, my flight arrives not 6 hours before the hotel allows check-in and things like that. Yeah, that's still hard. It really is.
It's the
Um,
executive functioning that we don't have.
yes, yes, and it is a challenge. But
Yeah.
I love challenges, so I keep
Mm,
doing it. Although,
mm-hmm.
it takes half the fun out of it. I like I like the writing, the performing, the piece, if you want to call it. I call them gigs because I like to rock my way
Sure.
through life. So um,
It's a gig.
I still just try to have fun with it, and I do. I'm meeting so many
You know,
people. It's incredible.
that's what I love. You know, I mean, we have, like you said earlier, we have such big hearts. And we love meeting other people where they are. We want to hear their story. We want to make a difference. And we're change makers. And we have to work a little harder at it, but we're giving our all in order to do it. And I think, I would love to hear you talk more about flying with broken wings and when it started and where you are now, and because there's so many people that are living with it, but are also caregivers of people who are helping people with FASD. And you're also helping those people as well. And I'm one of those now. I'm on both ends. And it's a lot harder to be a caregiver of somebody with FASD to then actually have it yourself. Because, that's me. I got it. I'm good. Whatever. I'll figure it out. But it's ripping my heart out to help my child. And I adopted him when he was 4, almost 4, and he was nonverbal. And to see where he is now, I'm so proud of him. But, it's so much harder. And I really appreciate your group, Flying with Broken Wings. How are you reaching people, and what kind of differences and messages are you doing in your group on Facebook?
Again, it's the same basic mentality that we're all equals in the group. There are a lot of people on the spectrum, and yes, we do give precedence to the voices of people on the spectrum because we
Yeah,
made a safe place where they can share, not
right.
just what they've learned, but what they haven't learned yet. They can ask
Mm,
questions, they can share their fears, and
yeah.
this helps. I think the caregivers see us as people, not problems. So having that mix in there is
Mm,
very important. And um, of course, I'm in charge of the educational component, and I try to put stuff out that not only helps us but also helps the caregivers understand us better. So in our own little way, it's where the profession, there are a lot of professionals in the group. It's amazing the number of people who are
that's
also
awesome.
watching our conversations and how we take care of each other. We take
Mm,
care of caregivers, we take care of ourselves. how we take care of each other is, I think, what's making the difference. When someone comes in, okay, there are a lot of parenting groups out there that don't have the people they're talking about in the group. So parents are free to come in and rant. I hate this, I hate that, my kid, blah blah. That does not fly in the group very long, and I don't have to step in. Other people are like, that conversation is probably better in another group. They kindly try to tell the people that
Mm-hmm.
this isn't the place. This is
Mm-hmm.
the place that we all come to learn. And I learn constantly about other people on the spectrum, what they're dealing with every day and things like that. And that helps me immensely in my work too, because
Mm-hmm.
I'm not good at the abstract. So I can't experience what somebody else is experiencing. So
Mm-hmm.
their version of FASD is as foreign to me as mine would be to them. However,
Mm-hmm.
when they talk and they explain, then I can understand. And that's the basic thing. If you want to go back to the moms, when we know better, we can do better.
Mm-hmm.
And so many times I love birth moms. They come up to me and it's like, you
Mm,
guys are changing the world. Yeah, something happened. Yeah, I dropped a cup
yeah.
of coffee one time too. That happened. It doesn't ruin my life now, and I'm not saying you can compare the two at any
Mm-hmm.
point in time. However, we can't dwell on it. We're here. We're living. We're breathing. We feel everything. We love being alive, um, and
Mm-hmm.
I hate seeing that chipped away in people. So I have to speak out, and I have to go out there, and I have to tell people there is a better way.
Yeah. I think that you touched on something too, and I don't know if everybody with FASD has this because I'm sure that a lot of us are very down and out and go through the seasons of pain and shame and all of those things. And I'm not saying that those aren't a part of it. What I'm saying is the resilience factor is so strong. And I always have the glasses half full take on things. And I don't know where that comes from. People have often said to me, I don't know how in the world you're able to do all that you're doing and have such a positive outlook all the time. And it's not something I'm even forcing myself to do, it's just there. And I just wake up the next day and I've got this really like, let's go. And I don't know.
No, you do know. Every day is a new day.
Is that why? Is
Yes, for us, when we wake up, it's a brand new day.
Is it like
And that
short-term memory person on Saturday Night Live?
kind of like, yeah, it's kind of like Groundhog Day. It's like,
Yeah.
however I felt yesterday, I'm probably going to feel the same way tomorrow when I wake up. I'm happy. I'm ready to go. Like when I was a kid, that moment is still there. When I sleep and we're still trying to figure out if this is a trauma thing or a brain thing. I don't
Okay.
dream. I do
Oh.
not dream.
Oh.
Occasionally, I have little glimpses of what I think might have been a dream, but that's sort of in
Okay.
that period of halfway between awake and asleep.
Like
So I'm not sure.
you've been tested and you don't go into REM.
Um, I do, but when I go to
Okay.
sleep, my brain seems to shut off. It's black. It's like I don't. I'm not conscious of the length of time that I'm sleeping. It's like turning out a light, and I turn it on, and it's a brand new day. It's a
Okay.
really weird. It's definitely strange. So if I was super stressed out when I went to sleep, I wake up at least at first, it's a brand new day. Then the memory starts to come back.
Okay. That's really interesting because that 100% happens to me. I wake up and it takes a while for me to realize what my day is going to be, what happened yesterday, those thoughts and memories and everything start coming back, but it does take a while. It doesn't come right when I wake up. And I never put that together before.
I I give myself and I'm able to do this because I'm not raising kids, the grace of 2 hours automatically. And that's because my brain is like an old, an old Windows computer from like 1990. It takes all the different processes starting up take time.
Yeah.
And I I call it, it's giving myself grace, understanding that don't make decisions in that first 2 hours. Don't make me converse in those first 2 hours because I'm just trying to get everything online. And if I do, I could be angry, I could be curt, I could make a decision that I'm really going to regret in an hour and a half when I think about it. So
Yeah.
I try, um, if I have like a 7 a.m. Start for an event, I am way up 4 or 5. And that's just to get my brain going.
Hmm. Yeah. I
And
mean,
that's a
I
cool.
need that time too. I absolutely need that time. I'm homeschooling one of my kids who also has quite a few differences, and I'm sure he's going to end up with the diagnosis as well. He's next to go to the clinic, but he can't handle all the noises and the social stuff and everything. It's just a lot. And he
Oh,
is done. He's spent within an hour of being anywhere. So we keep him pretty close. And he's 9. But yeah, I mean, it's really difficult for him as well. And so we have quite the routine. We have a routine, and routine is very important to us. But like you were saying, you need that morning time. I know when I need to get up to get my other son off to school, to be able to work with my one son that I'm homeschooling, and I need that time. I know what I need in order to start a productive day, to be productive with him.
it works for the kids too. I had a parent that I suggested that to. Her kids were just fighting and melting down. 2 boys around the same age going to school
Yeah.
in the morning, and getting them up early and just allowing them some quiet time each by themselves. It improved things immensely. And it also helped them in school because they weren't coming to school fighting with their brother.
Did you have meltdowns?
I wasn't allowed,
Okay.
if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
And also because of the life with my mother, I had to take on a caretaker role many times for my 2 younger sisters. So I didn't have the luxury. If I melted down, we didn't have breakfast or nobody made lunch.
Um,
So in those moments, I just had to learn to buckle down. And yeah, I'd have my meltdown later. I'd go jump on trains to go to school. I used to run across the top of the boxcars back when they had the running boards on the roofs. It was a long time ago. First time I got arrested, I was 7 years old. I was running on a train and the cops caught me.
you know
But
what though? You just proved something about who we are. What comes along a lot of times with FASD is also what we talked about very early, the trauma part of it. But I also had to take care of my mom. My dad had passed away, and she was my adopted mom, and I had to take care of her. I felt that I had to take care of her. And my sister, who ended up being put back into the system, there is so much that comes along with just the fact that we were either adopted or put in other homes, or that we have to take care of the people who should be taking care of us. There's so many layers that are there that are at, and that we can do it. I mean, we're placed in situations that really are above us. It's hard for our brains to even do those things, but yet we're figuring it out. We had to figure it out really, really young, because the people who were supposed to be the stability in the home, they weren't the stability in the home. So you take our FASD brain, and we're the ones having to step up to be the caretakers, to be the strong ones, to be the resilient ones. And I think that that does carry on into who we become as adults.
However, when I was in a safer environment, I would rage. I wouldn't just melt down. I would have rages.
See,
And, I thinking back, that was more than just what was going on in the moment. That was everything coming out, just this toxic sludge. And
mm,
that busted doors, furniture. And the thing that was most telling was the stuff that I destroyed, that I actively went after, was mine. It wasn't other
interesting.
people's stuff. I
Yeah.
hurt myself.
Yes, you hurt
And that
yourself.
later told me that I was blaming myself for who I was. Like, I don't deserve to have this nice toy, smash kind of thing. It wasn't what I was thinking at the time, but looking back, I never hurt other people's stuff, not
Yeah.
intentionally. Occasionally, there'd be collateral damage. You smash out the door and a piece of wood flies and breaks a cup or something. That would
Yeah.
be, but
Yeah.
what I was doing was I was hurting myself.
How long did it take you to be okay with who you were?
It was after my diagnosis when I was told I
Okay.
could forgive myself. Up until that point, I just drove myself. I just wanted, to end this mortal toil kind of thing and just get it over with. I wasn't going to take any active steps, but life there was
Okay.
no joy in life. I was a I was a successful photographer, had many
Mm-hmm.
relationships, but they only went so far because I couldn't open up. The scariest thing anyone can ever say to me is, I love you. Because when I was a kid, the people who said, I love you, were really saying, I'm going to hurt you.
I lived
And
it
that's
too.
what I learned. I had to unlearn all of that.
Yes. Yeah.
So it
That's what
has
I'm
been
saying.
a
FASD is
journey.
so complex. It's so complex because when you think about it, the those people, I mean, my biological mom wasn't able to take care of me, plain and simple. She didn't want me. And there's all these different things that go along with that. Now, my son, and I'm trying really hard not to tell too much of his story, but I can say that he is very angry, but he's also only 12. So he has a
Yes.
long time to work through it. And he just found out because, that's another thing. How honest should you be with a child who's working through and finds out, well, what is FASD? What does that mean? And so, we have tried to say things in a very simplistic way, which doesn't really offer a lot of blame anywhere, but he's
Mm-hmm.
very angry in that this is his brain. So, I find it interesting that, how do you present this to somebody finding out for the first time, young or old? And of course, it would be different, how you
Mm-hmm.
present.
Um, Especially with someone of that age, we have to take into account a thing like called dysmaturity.
Mm-hmm.
And that means different brain domains develop at different rates. So cognitive understanding may be way different than, say, actual physical age or executive function levels. All of these things are different.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so understand we need to understand first off where the person is emotionally and cognitively and how they can take in that information. So it
Right.
may start with something happened and your brain is different, and then
Mm-hmm.
you just leave it, and then when the question comes, why is my brain different, then you can start to talk about introduction of alcohol, explain that pregnancies aren't things with bright shining lights and women don't
Mm-hmm.
always know, and things like
Mm-hmm.
that, and sort of
Mm-hmm.
bring the understanding along step by step as the child asks, because we don't want to overload them. We don't want to trauma dump on our children either. So
Right.
we want to keep the information in little nuggets that they can use. And,
Mm-hmm.
they will process it and they'll probably have more questions. And then you can add another little nugget to it. And that way you can get a more holistic understanding. Something happened to both my mom and I.
Okay.
Um,
But if they're asking, you should answer.
yes, absolutely. Absolutely, but you don't want to overload them with information or a lot of emotional baggage. We
It-
all have our biases, and we may be angry at the woman who's the parent, but we cannot pass that on to the child. We need
right,
to, because one of the worst things that you can do is sort of try and attack a mother-child bond, and that's the way it would be interpreted. And then the child is not going to be open to the information because they think it's going to be an attack on them and their mom. So again, we try to keep the information as age appropriate and in small enough
right,
chunks that they can digest it bit by bit. And we can eventually get to the point where we're discussing alcohol usage and how
right.
mistakes happen and things like that. It wasn't
Yeah.
intentional, etc.
Yeah. And you also, the chronological age of a child doesn't mean anything with somebody who has fetal alcohol, because for sure there's regression, and their chronological age and their emotional age is completely different, completely
Very often.
different. And
Yep.
I know that it was for me, and I still feel like I'm half my age. They were told, I was told when I was younger that, I probably was about half my age. So when I was like 16, I was like an 8-year old and things like that. And
Mhm.
I still feel a lot younger than I really am.
Oh, me too. Me too. Like I still laugh at poop jokes.
I do too, but it's a duty. We have to laugh at those.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. And that doesn't necessarily ever leave us. It's not fake. It's, part of our personality. It's our dismaturity. If you look at like maturity, immaturity, that's a blanket. That's all of your functions, all of your brain domains. But
Yeah.
dismaturity is like, it's like a mountain range of highs and lows.
Okay, talk about that though. What exactly is dismaturity?
Um, See, I'm not really up on this part right now.
Okay.
It's
All right. Well,
We have
I'm
about 10 different brain domains, which
okay.
are areas of function in our brain, um, like executive function, making decisions, knowing that if I'm going to catch a bus, I have to leave at this time, planning, things like that. Um, Cognitive function is a brain domain. It's your understanding, your ability to communicate. You take that information in and utilize it properly or in a good way. Also,
Mm-hmm.
communicate, not words. Um, and all of these different domains coupled with chronological age, which is, basically where we're all judged. If you look like you're an adult, people are going to treat you like an adult. Although what they can't see is you might have a cognitive age of, like you were saying, 15, 14. Your
Mm-hmm.
emotional age, how you react emotionally, could be 8 or 10. So
Sure.
part of the diagnostic process often identifies these through the Vineland adaptive scale and a number of other tests that are part of the diagnostic system. We're able to better judge like where the different levels would be. And I really wish I had the full list in front of me. It's really fascinating.